Welcome back. The wireless industry says it's looking after its customers, but as we've discovered, cell phone companies are actively fighting any form of regulation. So who can you turn to for help? One group says they are there for you. You may have seen their website or their ads on TV. It's called mywireless.org. It's a nonprofit that promises to help consumers. But we found something entirely different, what some call a wolf in sheep's clothing.
And represents the many faces of America's wireless consumers.
My Wireless calls itself a non-profit consumer advocacy organization, giving wireless consumers a powerful and unified voice, protecting their wireless rights. But
I think the truth is very, very far from that.
Bill Nussbaum of the Utilities Reform Network says mywireless.org is not at all what it appears to be.
They're basically an organization that's funded by the wireless industry.
He points to the top of the My Wireless agenda list, fighting any form of regulation.
It's hard for me to believe that this helps consumers at all.
My Wireless is one consumer resource among many that are available.
Jay Ziegler represents CTIA, the Wireless Association, and says cell phone companies are using My Wireless to inform customers.
More information is better service. More information is lower prices. More information is more accountability, and we're for all of those things.
But the nonpartisan consumer advocacy group Common Cause says the wireless industry has secretly spent $16 million creating My Wireless to do exactly the opposite. In its report, Wolves in Sheep's Clothing, Common Cause calls My Wireless nothing more than a front group that is all about corporate money, not citizen power, deliberately misleading citizens and our lawmakers about complex telecom issues. And its greatest victory?
They were the lead effort in defeating the Telecommunications Bill of Rights here in California.
There it is on the My Wireless website, defeating what they called a bill on excessive taxes and regulation. I can't think of one other consumer group that said that was a victory.
And I think that you have an outcome today where consumers, wireless companies, regulatory community, others are working together to achieve the outcomes that consumers are looking for.
They're working for themselves. They're working for the industry.
MyWireless.org is just one tactic in a larger war over regulation. In fact, the California Public Utilities Commission gets more consumer complaints about cell phones than any other issue, even though they don't regulate cell phones. So in the year 2000, the PUC began working on the so-called Telecommunications Bill of Rights to help protect cell phone users from confusing contracts, poor service, and unfair charges. The effort was led by Jeff Brown, one of 5 commissioners on the PUC.
We're supposed to be about the protection of the consumer.
The wireless industry fought back, saying the Bill of Rights would lead to higher costs for cell phone users. The showdown comes on May 27, 2004.
It put enormous pressure.
When the Bill of Rights finally comes up for a vote.
I received calls from the governor. I received calls from members of the legislature.
Suddenly, Democrats and Republicans around the state are trying to stop Brown from passing the Bill of Rights.
I was disgusted by the pressure, but I understood where it was coming from. The enormous financial contributions that are made to politicians in this state.
Nonetheless, Brown stands his ground. The Bill of Rights passes 3-2 and goes into effect in November 2004. The first victory goes to Brown and consumer advocates, but not for long. Just 5 weeks later, 2 PUC commissioners who had voted for the Bill of Rights finished their terms of office. They are replaced by appointees of Governor Schwarzenegger, who says the cell phone Bill of Rights is bad for business and will lead to higher prices for cell phone users. Suddenly, Brown is outnumbered.
There is a high probability that this agency will screw up the very competition that gives consumers the choices they have today.
PUC Commissioner Susan Kennedy, who had opposed Brown, quickly moves to kill the Bill of Rights.
It was the most shameful thing that I saw in 4 years here.
May 2005, Susan Kennedy introduces new cell phone rules that are backed by the wireless industry but opposed by consumer groups. In a confusing twist, Kennedy also calls her new proposal the Bill of Rights.
I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that we don't do anything that's going to raise the cost of your cell phone bill.
March 2006, the PUC passes Kennedy's new Bill of Rights, but gone are consumer protections like clearly written contracts and the right to return a new phone within 30 days. A victory for wireless companies. Meanwhile, State Senator Jackie Speer sees our CBS 5 report about Wendy Nguyen's $26,000 cell phone bill.
Oh my God.
Shortly thereafter, Speer introduces a new bill that would protect customers from paying unauthorized charges if their cell phone is lost or stolen.
It shouldn't require consumers going to TV stations to have their rights properly addressed by wireless companies.
Speer's bill, SB 440, would also prevent wireless companies from threatening people's credit rating while the charges are in dispute. The wireless industry fights back, saying SB 440 would create unnecessary burdens on wireless providers, undermine existing rules, and that they already have effective systems in place to address lost or stolen phones.
They said that there would be no investigation, that I was responsible for the charges.
With help from Pamela Woodson's testimony, SB 440 passes the legislature on August 31st, 2006. It's not the full Bill of Rights, but still a small victory for cell phone users. Now SB 440 would go to Governor Schwarzenegger to pick the final winner. Would he sign the bill protecting consumers, or would he veto it? Coming up, we'll show you what the governor was doing while SB 440 sat on his desk. And it just so happens during that same period, Eileen Pereira was still fighting her $15,000 cell phone bill. Earlier, we told you the story of Eileen Pereira. She was on vacation in Europe when her cell phone was stolen, leaving her with a $15,000 bill. At the same time, sitting on the governor's desk was SB 440, a law to help protect people like Eileen, victims of cell phone fraud. So what would the governor do?
The question that we're asking is, Governor, are you going to side with the consumers of the state, or are you going to side with the industry of this state?
And that's an interesting question.
There's a governor here that will protect businesses.
Because at the same time Schwarzenegger was considering SB 440, he was also the keynote speaker at the Wireless Industry Convention in Los Angeles.
We want to have California be a very successful in that particular business and in every business, and this is why we want to assist you in every way possible.
Less than 3 weeks after that speech, Governor Schwarzenegger vetoed SB 440. But his veto statement echoed the wireless industry's position that the bill is unnecessary because consumers are already protected under existing law.
I don't feel protected at all.
The governor vetoed SB 440 while Eileen was still fighting.
If there were laws that would protect us, Sprint wouldn't be playing these games.
PUC Commissioner Jeff Brown says there's a good reason for that game playing. No one is enforcing the law.
Nothing has been enforced. Nothing will be enforced until the PUC changes its rules.
We sent this letter to the governor explaining Eileen's story. Based on his veto, we wanted to know which state agency she should go to for help. The governor's office told us the PUC.
Either they're misguided, which I don't think they are because I know the people that run that office, or they're telling you a fib.
And indeed, when I called the PUC consumer line...
Okay, so you really don't regulate them, but you take the complaints.
They said there wasn't much they could do because they don't regulate cell phones. The fact is, no wireless company has ever been penalized for violating the law on fraudulent charges. Brown says that's because the PUC is dominated by the telecommunications industry.
They're governing this commission because they have the strength through their financial contributions to influence the governor's office. The governor's office calls individual commissioners and tells them what to do in specific cases.
But the wireless industry says ultimately the people who regulate the cell phone business are their customers.
When a consumer can say, I'm not going to go with you because I don't like the way you do your business, that's faster than any regulator can react to any issue whatsoever.
And in fact, that's exactly what Eileen Pereira had decided to do, switch carriers. But then Sprint told her,
"Oh, no, you can't, because you owe us $15,000. Nobody's going to take you on." That's what they told me.
Finally, Eileen told Sprint she was going to contact CBS 5 for help. And suddenly,
everything started opening up. All of a sudden, things that could not be done were able to be done.
When we contacted Sprint on Eileen's behalf, they reversed the charges and sent us this statement. In instances in which a handset is reported either lost or stolen, we work with our customers to resolve each issue and reduce any losses to the customer and to Sprint.
The one thing the industry cannot stand is the spotlight of negative publicity.
We are looking at this issue, largely because of the efforts of the media to bring it to our attention.
But the industry says it just wants to do the right thing.
Not aware of an instance in which that customer hasn't been made whole at the end of the day.
At the end of what day? The day that they were handling it with the customer service, or the day that we started making calls?
I think the fundamental question is, does a regulation address these issues, or may the same, or could you have the same circumstance in the absence of regulation?
For Jeff Brown, that question is easy to answer.
You have to protect businesses. You have to encourage businesses to prosper, because that's what makes our standard of living what it is. But at the same time, what you have to do is see that consumers are protected. And the job of a regulator is to make sure that there's a balance.
It will be up to someone else to find that balance. After 6 years of fighting, Commissioner Brown is stepping down, and State Senator Jackie Speer is gone too, forced out by term limits. And PUC Commissioner Susan Kennedy, she's now one of the most powerful people in the state as Governor Schwarzenegger's chief of staff. And then there's Eileen, who feels she won in the end.
They asked me what it would take to make me happy.
So she sent Sprint a bill for the hours she spent calling their customer service. And Sprint's response?
They gave me $2,000.
So when will this wireless runaround come to an end? Well, consider this. It took almost 2 decades before laws were passed to protect credit card users from fraudulent charges. And that only after an intense public outcry finally got lawmakers and elected officials to act. Consumer advocates tell us it may take just as long to bring those same protections to cell phone users. To that end, if you believe you are a victim of cell phone fraud or want help avoiding your own wireless runaround, visit our website at cbs5.com and click on Consumer Watch. For CBS 5 Consumer Watch, I'm Jeanette Pavini. Thanks for joining us.